What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Only Football. We are going to give you guys our Week 10 predictions coming up. We're going to give you our favorite matchups for Week 10. And as always, we're going to end with a little chives with Kyle. Let's get it.
Going on, welcome to the Only Football Podcast, and we are super excited about this one. I'm half excited, I'm half nervous, I'm half sad. Why sad? And how can you be half three times? Well, because this is Week 10. We've officially entered double-digit numbers when it comes to our week. Rick, how are we already at Week 10, man? How?
Dude, I hate this. I hate that we're halfway through the NFL season and more than halfway because we're
closer to the end
because we just had the Thursday night football game happen. So we're more than halfway now through the NFL season. The only saving grace, Kyle, is that we have a few more weeks of playoff football afterwards. So that's it.
Absolutely.
That's the most exciting part of football season, arguably. So I'm glad we still at least have the playoffs.
When I was in the Navy, there was a guy that I was flying with. He was my sea dad. He was training me, and he told me that there was this specific point we were flying home from deployment, and he said he wasn't excited. And I said, why? And he was like, I'm not going to be excited until we get to blank. Now, this acronym, this word that I can't remember, basically it means that you're closer to home than you are, so you won't ever turn around from that point. Yeah. Instead, you'll follow through. And he said, I wouldn't get excited till we get to that point. Yeah. We've entered that point of the NFL season. We are closer to week 18 than we are week 1. But I'm really excited to get into these games, man. We got a lot of good games. We just saw the Bears get a W.
Dub.
And definitely check that out if you haven't seen our post-game reaction, which we just did. But we're going to get into a different game in a different city, in a different country. Let's talk about the Colts and the Patriots. This is a game that's happening in London. The Colts have some surprising statistics that I'm going to put up. You may not realize certain things that the Colts have done. I won't spoil it. You're going to have to wait for it to pop up on the screen. And the Patriots, they have been just historically bad under Bill Belichick. This is the worst team Bill Belichick has ever had, maybe besides his first season as being a Patriot head coach. And we talked about it. Maybe Bill Belichick is closer to the end than where we started in his career. I don't know really what to make of this game as far as Bill Belichick or what the Patriots are fighting for. But I got to say, man, some of these things I'm going to put on the screen in a second about the Colts offense is very surprising. Rick, who wins this game in London?
Oh God, this game is just butt. This game is just butt when you get down to it. And you know, one of our regular viewers, Jinja, our boy, our OG, is the Colts fan. And I'm going to give it to the Colts in this one. Nobody is really at home. The Patriots are not at home. The Colts are not at home. The Colts are taking this dub just because of the way they've been able to compete in the last couple weeks, man. Gardner Minshew, you know, we kind of wrote him off after he came in for an injured Anthony Richardson, and he's been doing pretty well these last couple weeks. Obviously, he really is no longer a starter in this league. But he seems to be proving otherwise, and he can continue to do that if he plays just as well as he has the last couple weeks, going into this game, going into the rest of the season, because Anthony Richardson is gone for the season. So what can Gardner Minshew do? Continue to play at the level he has been playing the last couple weeks, has kept the Colts in games, and I believe Did he win a game or was he close to winning? Because I think he won against the Falcons last week, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So he's got to continue playing the way he's been playing the last couple of weeks. Let me just see this. Yeah. No, not the Falcons. Sorry. The Panthers. He beat them last week 27-13. And a huge reason why as well is Jonathan Taylor has been rushing the ball really well. He kind of came back. We talked about Zach Moss kind of, his touches are gone because Taylor's back on the team. So a combination of that, a combination of Josh Downs becoming a good target for Minshew, and you still got I always forget his name, the other wide receiver there. I always forget this guy's name. And if Ginger was
Michael
here, Pittman Jr. There we go, Pittman Jr. They got them there as well. So I just think the Colts have it, man. The Patriots have not shown anything offensively. It seems like they have like one good game every 5 weeks. And I think their good game has already passed, which was I think it was like a super random win against a very, very good team. I just can't remember who it was at this point right now, at this particular moment in time. I can't.
I don't give a damn.
They put up a solid effort against the Commanders last week, but Sam Howell is just too good for that defense and was too good for the Patriots in general. Mac Jones is trash. His best receiver, Bourne, was out with a season-ending injury. And Ramondre Stevenson seems to be the only good thing happening in the Patriots. Unfortunately, the run game cannot win games when the defense is bad and your quarterback and wide receivers are third tier in the NFL. So I'm taking the Colts to win this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Bill Belichick. I'm gonna go with New England this time. I don't feel confident about either of these teams, but when you add in the fact that it's being played in another country, right? I'm gonna go with the head coach that I think will have his team more prepared for a game like that. And I as much as I want to pick the Colts in this situation, I see the Patriots playing a scrappy game in London, and I see them pulling it out. Now, I don't think it would be a shocker if the Colts win this game to anybody. But this is just like, there's certain coaches in the NFL that even when they're absolute dog shit, they still are that coach that's not going to just roll over and die. Bill Belichick is going to have his team playing hard football until week 18. And it doesn't matter, how many games they lose, because that's just kind of the way they run things in New England. You're not allowed to give up in the middle of the season. You might be bad, but you're not going to have lack of effort. And I think in these London games, when you really look at them, Jacksonville beating Buffalo and just some of the nuances that we see in these international series games, I think things get a little weird over the pond. And because of that, I'm gonna take New England, and I don't feel great about it.
And nobody should. You should never feel great about taking New England this year. It's just it's been bad. And do you want to bring up the stats, or what did you say about the stats? Because I wasn't paying.
There was the one. It was the one I had here for the last 3 minutes on the screen. The Colts are surprisingly 7th in points per game, and look, the Colts do have some sort of offensive rhythm that's going right now. Zach Moss had a really quiet game last week, but still, the Colts have been surprising. You know what I mean? That it is very surprising to think, oh, give me your top 10 teams in points per game. No one's saying Colts. Nobody. And that's the reality of it. So the Colts, you know what I mean, are putting together some performances back to back when they're scoring, pretty high. And I think that is what was really surprising. And I did put this too. Gardner Minshew has never played the Patriots before. And Belichick, how he just totally dismantles young quarterbacks or quarterbacks that are, whether it's a rookie or just somebody that he's never played. Gardner Minshew is going to, I think, have a tough time against Bill Belichick, because that's kind of Bill Belichick's MO against quarterbacks that have never played him. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the defense that seals the win for New England.
Yeah, the god dang Colts, what? They give up the fourth most points, and the Patriots score the second least amount of points. So it's like you said, nobody would be surprised if the Colts won and you're taking the Patriots. Like, nobody would be surprised if this was a tie either. Like, any outcome wouldn't surprise us. Like, these are just two bad teams, and yes, the Colts score the seventh most points in the NFL, which is very surprising. But you look at their last few games, and you're like, okay, they've been in the 30s, high 30s, they've been in the high 20s. You're like, oh yeah, they're quietly a damn good offense.
Yeah,
but their defense again is just like you're in a shootout really at the end of the day. So I wouldn't be surprised by any outcome, but I'm going to take the Colts on this one just for my boy Jinja.
Absolutely. And before we move into the next game, Rick, if you could you click the one that you made to scroll across the bottom, because the one
for some reason I don't see it anymore.
For some reason.
Yep, I'll fix it.
Awesome. Well, I'll get into the next game. The next game is going to be a really good game. Now, you guys know that the last 2 weeks in a row, I've had my game of the week end up being the first game, and it's not going to be that early, but this game was fighting for that spotlight. I really had to fight all of my impulses to not do it, and I'm not going to, but I got to tell you, the Cleveland Browns going to Baltimore. The Ravens are 6-point favorites at home. I'll tell you one thing, just as far as betting goes, take the Browns +6. I don't know if the Browns are going to win the game, but I do not think the Ravens win by more than 6. So I do think this is going to be a close game. Lamar Jackson, not a great home favorite for whatever reason. When he's at home and he's a favorite, and the numbers are even weirder the higher he is as a favorite. Yeah. But you know, the Ravens and Lamar, they're always better as an underdog. Here they are at home being favorited to win against the Browns, who the Browns, man, have been playing really, really good, you know, these last couple of weeks. You could argue Watson had his most encouraging performance of the year last week, coming back from injury, where PJ Walker was leading the team. The Baltimore Ravens blew out Cleveland 28-3 earlier this season. That game was in Cleveland, but the Browns have been 3-1 since. I think you know where I'm going with this one, so I'm going to let you tell me, who do you got winning this game?
I hear that stat. This is the second time I hear that stat where you talk about Lamar Jackson just not being good at home. And I almost want to pick the Browns, but I got to go with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens to win this one. They've already beaten the Browns before in blowout fashion. The Browns, remember, I talked about them during our recap episode of week 9. I was like, they're such a weird team, dude. They're winning. They're beating the 49ers. They're losing to the Ravens, huge. They're losing to the Steelers. They're beating the Colts by 1, which, I mean, we talked about the Colts being a top offense, but like, then they lose to the Seahawks the next week. It's like, what is this team, right? So they blew out the Cardinals, which shouldn't really be a surprise, especially when you have Deshaun Watson, their quarterback, and the defense with how they've been playing. Myles Garrett is such a monster, by the way. So I just really need to see some consistency from this Browns team. If they can put up a good fight against the Ravens or even come out with the win, now it's starting to be like, oh, okay. Now week 11 with the Steelers, now that one looks like, oh, the Browns are going to steamroll them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they are in Cleveland, right? And then you got they're in Denver for the Broncos. You know, I'm not going to say anything about that one, but I will say like that one's going to be another tough game too, but only if they lose against the Ravens big. I'm still taking the Ravens to win this game because it just seems like that offense has been money against very good teams. And yes, they lost to Steelers. Again, division rivals, you play tough. But they blew the Browns out last time. Is it going to be the same result as far as like beating them by 4 scores or something? Probably not, but I'm taking them in the spread. I think they win by more than 6.
Yeah, and I get, all that, especially like you said, when you look at the NFC North and the NFC West leaders getting completely blown out.
Yeah.
It's what the Ravens are doing right now is making a case for being the best team in the league.
Absolutely.
But defenses win championships, and defenses win. Especially when you're talking about divisional games, defenses win those games. And when you talk about divisional games in the AFC North, this is about as tough as football gets, right? There is not a tougher division in the history of sports than the AFC North. And that might be a hot take, but when you look at the Steelers and the Ravens and the Browns, I mean, man, there's just don't forget about the Bengals. Like this is a really, really tough division. And I think the Browns, like I said, the Ravens, I mentioned the underdog thing with Lamar. I think on the opposite side, I think every team in this entire division play better as an underdog. The Steelers play better as an underdog, the Ravens. And that goes for the Browns, you know what I mean? And the Bengals as well. The Bengals are the one team that I don't think really matters one way or another. But when you talk about Browns, Steelers, Ravens, I like the underdog in those situations. I like the attitude. The Browns are going to probably wear their white on white. You know what I mean? They're probably going to be listening to "I'll Whoop Your Head Boy" by 50 Cent coming out. It's going to be it's going to be a game that you don't want to miss, and that's why this was almost my game of the week. I'm going to take the underdog to get the win, but make no mistake about it. The Ravens, I just do not foresee a scenario where they walk over the Browns the way they did Detroit or Seattle.
Yeah, I think, me personally, I do think the Ravens are going to win by 6. But both of these defenses, total yards allowed, 1 and 2. Cleveland Browns are number 1. Ravens are number 2. So this is going to be a hell of a game. It's not my game of the week either, but this is going to be a very good one in the early slate. And I feel like when we say that, one of these teams gets blown out. It seems like. So that's why none of us have it as our game of the week. Yeah.
For sure. Our next game is, I'm really excited to talk about. You got the Houston Texans going into Cincinnati to play the Bengals. Now, when you first look at this game, you think, oh my God, the Bengals are going to win by 100. Not so fast. DeMeco Ryans has the Texans playing inspired. He has the defense playing some of the best football in the league. When you talk about the pass yards allowed per game, the DeMeco Ryans, an ex-cornerback, has his defense. It's all figured out. It's all figured out. He's got the defensive side of the ball down. And not only that, okay, but when you look at what CJ Stroud is doing, he broke a record, like an all-time record, not a Texan record, not a Houston record, not an AFC South record, but an NFL record in passing yards per game. Like Houston is a team that is going to be feisty, but when you look at the Bengals and the wins that they had, they handled Buffalo. By the way, that was like Groundhog Day to the divisional playoff game last year, where it's just you're not ready to play us. And you look at Joe Burrow fully healthy, he is definitely in full form. And you look at the Bengals defense and the fact that they beat San Francisco, and I just I understand all of what the Texans are doing. The Bengals are 6.5 point favorites at home. And I think if the wise move here is to take the Bengals to win by more than 6.5, I'm taking the Bengals, and I don't think it's going to be as close as some of the Texans' other games they've played this year.
I'm also taking the Bengals in this one. This one was a tough one for me because of what CJ Stroud has been able to do as a rookie fucking quarterback, right? Like what he's been able to do, and you mentioned that he broke a record, an NFL record last week, with 470 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a game-winning touchdown in the last 40 seconds of the game, something that it's tough for like third, fourth year quarterbacks to do. He was able to do that. So this one was tough, but I got to take the home team in the Bengals because they're just trending up, man. Joe Burrow has been looking great. I think he's got like in the last 3 games, he's just been doing really well. And we talked about his injury, right? We talked about how he played through that injury. And me, I was definitely like on the other side of this where I was like, I don't know if this is the correct decision for Joe Burrow to make. Let's sit out for a couple games, get that ankle or that knee, whatever it was, to feel better. And Joe Burrow said, no, I'm a competitor. I know who I am. I know my body. I'm going to play through it. And look what happens, man. They're winning games now. Their offensive line has looked better. This defense has looked better. T. Higgins is back, and he had a hell of a game against the Bills. And so Joe Burrow is looking back like old Joe Burrow, the one we know and love. So that's why I'm taking the Bengals. And again, the Texans are doing really, really well. It's just that last week you gave up 37 points to Baker Mayfield, someone we've talked to about that's a journeyman quarterback at year 5, year 6, whatever it is for him. While I understand that's like it can happen, this Texans defense is going to give up a ridiculous amount of points to this Bengals offense. I'm taking the Bengals at home, man.
Yeah, can't argue with any of that. Our next game is my game. No, it's not. But by the way, I'm pretty sure this is going to be your game of the week. This is going to be a bloodbath. This is going to be exactly what we need at this particular moment in time to be able to tell who the 49ers are playing Jacksonville in Duval. Jacksonville, man. They had a bye week last week. They're in both of our top 10s right now. Mm-hmm. The 49ers entered their week 9 bye on a 3-game losing streak. They haven't been able to figure out how to really get going. Brock Purdy has looked human for the first time. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that, and if you heard Purdy talk after that last loss, he said, yes, of course, you would like to get a win going into the bye, but we didn't. And we got to figure out in this bye week how to just get back on the right path. You know what I mean? How to get on the winning side of things again. And they are not going to have an easy get right game. They're going into play the team that has the longest winning streak currently in the NFL right now. And they're going on the road into Duval, where that crowd is going to be kicking and it's going to be insane. The 49ers actually being favored to win this game. I normally just ask you who you got winning, but let me put it this way. Should Jacksonville be an underdog at home in the situation that the product that they've given us?
Oof, that is a good question because, like you said, they're on a 5-game win streak. The product that they've put out there is elite, is top 5 in our eyes. Me and you, and on Only Football, Kyle and Rick think the Jaguars are a top 5 team, and they should be, I think, in the NFL, especially on their 5-game win streak. They're coming off a bye, but so are the 49ers. The reason being, I think they're underdogs is just because of the talent on the 49ers side, right? You look at the names: Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Fred Warner on the defensive side. They just added Chase Young as an edge. Like they're getting better offensively. And the Jaguars, while they're a good team and they've won 5 in a row, their defense right now in total yards given up, 23rd, 342 overall, 340 in the last 3 games. If possible, if the 49ers use this bye week to their advantage and are able to concoct an offense that scores more than 17 points, which they have scored in their last 3 losses, it's going to be tough for this Jacksonville defense to get this stub. And at that point, Trevor Lawrence is going to have to do a lot. Now, Kyle was right. This is my game of the week. And why? Because no matter what, you look at what's going on. This is my game of the week for this reason. If the Jaguars win, they're 6 games in a row that they win. Kyle, I was just saying how this is my game of the week, and you were right. And this is why, because if the Jags win, they win 6 in a row. If the 49ers beat the Jags, the 49ers are all of a sudden like, oh, they just beat a top 5 team, depending on how they do it, right?
Right.
And depending how many yards and how many points they put on that defense in Jacksonville, it could be like, okay, Kyle Shanahan used that bye week correctly. They added a guy in Chase Young on their defense.
Thank you.
And they've been able to win, right? Like they've been able. Thank you,
Adam Schefter.
Adam Schefter. Stop texting us, Adam. We don't have the scoops.
I wanted you to bring that up. That's why I said thank you, because you got to remember last year, San Francisco was on a losing skid, right? They were like 1-4 or I think 2-5. Yep. And guess what? The trade deadline was coming up, and they picked up their phone and start dialing, right? Pick up the phone and start dialing. Guess who they called? Christian McCaffrey. And they said, you need to come over here and help us. And they didn't lose a game until the NFC Championship. This year, they start losing football games, and they go, we're going to make a phone call, but this time it's the other side of the ball. We're going to get one more guy that is going to make it so they can't double Nick Bosa. Now you got Chase Young and Nick Bosa. Whoa, dude, are you kidding me? That is literally a nightmare. And Jacksonville's going to have to, be able to handle it. And that's why I was really excited for you to talk about it. So I'll let you finish. But, dude, this is huge.
And again, this is, like you said, this is huge because this is my game of the week for those reasons. You add a person on the defense, you go off a bye week. The Jacksonville Jaguars are trying to win their 6th straight. If this defense becomes a problem for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence is going to have to do that, but he's going to have to do that with Chase Young and Bosa running down that line, trying to sack this dude, trying to not hurt him. But I mean, sacking the quarterback, getting sacked is not fun. So Travis Etienne is going to be a big proponent in this offense for possibly having to be that extra blocker on the offense, because Travis Etienne doing really well on the offense, but he might have to be able to he might have to go into this game thinking, okay, I got to block or chip block one of these guys. Even so, I'm taking the Jacksonville Jaguars to win their 6th game in a row, and for the San Francisco 49ers to lose their 4th game in a row. The Jags are at home. They're riding that high. They just came off a bye week. This is going to be a tough, and very close game. But if the 49ers don't get their offense figured out against a weaker Jacksonville defense, then it's going to start. The conversation is going to start. What's going on in San Francisco?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm taking Jacksonville to win at home, and I do think that it's going to be all this panic, and it's going to be pushing the red button. Everybody's got to remember that Jacksonville is a very good football team with a top 5 quarterback in the NFL and the number 1 running back in the league right now. And I think the 2nd most takeaways defensively. Like, we haven't even seen Calvin Ridley get into full form. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I really do think that the 49ers defense that struggled against the Vikings, struggled against the Bengals. I don't know. Chase Young is more of a pass rush specialist. He doesn't really do great at stopping the run. He's not Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat is that guy. So when you look at it, it's like, okay, they added some pieces, but are they going to be able to stop the run? Because I really do think if Jacksonville's going to be able to effectively run the football with Travis Etienne, that's going to make this – that is like a key to victory. Travis Etienne running the football. If you make Jacksonville one-dimensional, I'm still saying that they can win the game, but it's just a whole hell of a lot less favorable than being able to go out there and run the football. And I do think this game is like 17-24. And I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I don't think this is a crazy high-scoring game, but I do think Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville will find look, if you're torn on 2 games, which quarterback do you trust more? I love me some Brock Purdy. I got to take T-Law. I got to take the guy that's proven that he can win these games and a guy that rises to the occasion. we've only seen Brock Purdy in one playoff game, and he was against Dallas. And I won't say he didn't rise to the occasion, but it was really the defense that kind of won that game. And then, we have a larger sample size of Trevor Lawrence, not only, rising to the occasion, but winning these type of games.
Yep.
And we don't have that with Brock Purdy. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm taking the Jacksonville Jaguars with you.
100%.
All right. So our next game, not to be outdone by that game, which it won't be, I promise, is going to be a game that we talked about actually on the stream today. We were talking about, oh, this game reminds me of something, and maybe it reminds you of something. It might remind you of the Minneapolis Miracle with the guy named Stefon Diggs taking his helmet off and throwing it. I still get chill bumps when I watch that.
Same.
The New Orleans Saints are going into Minnesota to take on the inspired Josh Dobbs led Minnesota Vikings. And by the way, the Vikings, 2.5 point favorite or underdogs at home. I'm telling you right now, I got the Vikings.
Wow.
This is one of the easy ones for me. And normally when you see the spread go down to 2.5, 1, those are the hardest games. That's like Vegas being like, we don't fucking know what's going to happen. And I'm telling you, the way it works out for me in this game is it looks like it could go either way. For me, I'm taking the Vikings, and I'm not losing any sleep about this because Vikings started off the season real bad, right? But they have turned their season around. And Joshua Dobbs joined the Vikings, and he came in, and he had a great game. I only think that is going to continue into this week. Rick, am I losing my mind, or am I onto something here?
I think you're losing your mind. Not gonna lie. Look, the fact that you think this is an easy one for you, great. I'm glad you're not losing any sleep over this. The thing is, Joshua Dobbs, we saw what he did in Arizona. Now, look, last week when he came in for an injured Jaren Hall, right? And he was like, who is this guy? What is he doing? He got a safety. He fumbled twice. He lost all those. And he was still able to overcome that and get the dub. But we've seen Josh Dobbs, what he's done in Arizona. Like I don't think there's really anything that he can do now to top that. And I don't think he will do anything in this week. He doesn't have Justin Jefferson. The Vikings just lost Kirk Cousins, obviously. KJ Osborne is another one that I think is out for this game. And I don't know if TJ Hawkinson also got hurt, but Joshua Dobbs is playing. He's playing with a team that their best player is a rookie wide receiver in Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison is good. Don't get me wrong. And like they will connect for a few good passes. But Alex Madison has played like shit. Joshua Dobbs can run the ball, and you've seen him use his legs. I just have a tough time, even though they're the home team. I have a tough time seeing them lose against a bit more established Saints team as far as like talent, with Alvin Kamara running the ball, Derek Carr throwing the ball. You got Chris Olave, wide receiver, because the Saints, their biggest problem is consistency, winning games, and looking like a consistent team in those wins or in those losses, right?
Lost to Chicago last week, and that's what I'm saying is like, no offense, but like Chicago is not that good of a team. The fact that New Orleans is struggling with those kinds of teams, just, you know what I mean? And not only is the Dobbs thing really, I mean, it's a game of momentum. It's a game of magic. It's a game of, I'm feeling it right now. It's a game of the hot hand, and all of that stuff. That's kind of why I say this is easy, is not because it makes sense on paper. New Orleans, better roster. Taysom Hill, 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Alvin Kamara, full form. Like Derek Carr, 10th in passing yards right now in the league. I mean, there's a lot to love about New Orleans, but there's all those things that really can't be measured in football that are going for Minnesota. And I know that might not hold up in a real
In a
like
court of law.
in the court of law of football, right? It might be like, okay, so you have a feeling, but you know
Yeah.
what? That's kind of
Right.
how this game goes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at with it. But I get you, man. Are
Mhm.
you concerned a little bit? And we'll end with this. I mean, the fact that they played the Bears so close, and Dobbs came in and played so well for Minnesota. I mean, is that's got to count for something, right?
It absolutely does. Just the thing is, what we do and what we've learned the last 2 years doing the show and watching football is anything can happen, right? Just like you said, that feeling. But also recency bias has us believe how could they have almost lost that game to the Bears? They beat the Colts by 11 points. They lost to the Jaguars by only 7 points. The Jaguars are on a 5-game win streak and in our top 5. So where's the consistency here? That's what I'm talking about, I guess. Just the consistency in wins and losses for the Saints. It's like, how do you only lose to 7 to the Jaguars, but you get blown out by these other teams, or you don't look convincing in a win against the Bears where you basically almost gave that game away? It's like, what is this team similar to the Browns? It's like, what are we doing here? Where this math does not add up. But I just, again, I've got to go with the talent on the side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball, and even on the defensive side too. Even though I don't think the Saints in this year have been a great defense. Let me just look them up. New Orleans. Oh, well, they're 7th in yards per game as far as the defense. So still pretty good there, right? So I got to go with the talent on the other side, the visitor, Derek Carr, Kamara, Olave, Cam Jordan. I'm going Saints.
How many yards per game do you got? Because on my list, they're 13th with 343 yards per game.
I got 304.3 in 2023. And that's
okay.
as of today. Yeah. So the 343, that may be or you said 343 or 334?
Yeah, no, it was total. So I just sent you the link to the one I'm looking at. I use teamrankings.com. Oh, okay. So I'm on NFL team yards per game.
Like I think this is offense.
Yeah, like total, like running and passing. So NFL team yards.
I was talking about defensive yards per game given up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Gotcha, that's where the confusion is. Yeah.
Okay.
The math's not mathing.
The math wasn't mathing, no. Yeah. But love to know that we're on the same website. So for like cross-checking. But all right. Yeah. That's going to be a fun game. We'll see who ends up on the winning side of it. Our next game is going to be a Super Bowl rematch from 2010. Aaron Rodgers' one and only Super Bowl. Back then, he used to do this. Oh, my God. I almost fell.
That was hot.
Yeah, that went a lot like more cool in my head. But yeah, Rodgers is not going to be on the Packers. It's going to be Jordan Love going into Pittsburgh, into Heinz Field to take on Kenny Pickett and the Steelers. The Steelers are 3-point favorites at home. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm taking the Steelers.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm taking the Steelers too, man. I'm taking them at home. The Packers, it says here that they haven't scored 20 points since week 2, I believe, in this year so far. They took a dub last week. Actually, they scored 20 last week. They haven't scored more than 20 since week 2. And that was after a Bears blowout and whoever they played week 2. So,
oh, by the way,
yeah,
this is my don't touch it.
Okay. Yeah, I can totally see that. What I will say is Pittsburgh 31st in yards given up overall. The thing is the Packers don't have an offense that should scare you into really like taking advantage of that. You know what I mean? TJ Watt's sacking quarterbacks. Like he's been a defense player of the year. He got an extension for a reason. Like this defense is going to play the Packers offense a little tough. Jordan Love, again, I've said it before and I will say it again, and it pains me to say this about a Packers quarterback, but I love the chances that he's taken downfield. It's just that they're not working. It's just that like you get into these situations too late into the game where you have to throw it deep to Christian Watson, for a 50-50 ball that determines whether the game goes your way or not, or you're able to get in field position for a field goal that you need, or to get a touchdown within 20 seconds. It's the play calling in the first half that has just like been probably the most atrocious for the Packers to get into those situations where we need to get 50 yards in 10 seconds or something like that in order to even have a chance in the fourth quarter. It's like they need to fix that. LaFleur needs to fix that in the first half. That play calling, getting his weapons more involved. They ran the ball a lot last week with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. They need to keep doing that. They need to keep getting their stars the ball no matter what way possible. But I think I'm still taking the Pittsburgh defense. And look, Kenny Pickett in that offense in Pittsburgh, I don't fucking know what they're gonna do every week in, week out. Right. I just know that they're gonna have like 7 3-and-outs in a row, and then they'll finally maybe score a touchdown in the end of the third quarter, and then the fourth quarter, yeah, exactly. And then in the fourth quarter, they're gonna win it. They're just a little bit better, probably even a little bit worse, really, if we're honest.
The Steelers?
Yeah, I'm still taking the Steelers at home.
The Steelers are not worse than the Bears.
Offensively, might be.
I don't even know. Yes. Yeah. But I just meant as a whole. But the weirdest part about this whole thing, right, is that when I say Steelers, and I don't really have to think about that much. The reason it's my don't touch it. The Packers are averaging 20 points per game, right? Steelers 16. The Packers 200 yards passing per game. The Steelers 188. Packers 100 rushing yards per game. Steelers 90. Opponent points per game. Packers 19. Steelers 20. Wrong side again, right? Opponent pass yards per game. Green Bay's given up less than 200 passing yards per game. Steelers 244. Opponent rush yards per game. Green Bay's given up 124 rushing yards per game. Steelers 133. Every single category is favoring Green Bay. Every single category, right? And I was gonna say the Steelers have enough talent on offense to be better than they have been, and I think we all know that.
Yes,
but we've seen enough from this group to now it's like this might just be who they are. This might just be who Kenny Pickett is, and this is kind of like there's always those teams. I went through this with Denver. I'm like Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler. Just because you can say all these names doesn't, you know what I mean? But it's like, no, but they're supposed to be good. You know what I mean?
100%.
And the Steelers are kind of at the end of the road when it comes to the amount of grace they're going to get. Like, we need something to either flip, or we're going to start to just say, this is who the Steelers are, right? And the Steelers, the fact that they're able to be in this situation, right, with, being second in the AFC North. So while they're trying to get their shit together, they're, winning football games. You can't say the same for the Packers. And it might be strength of schedule if you dive into it. Maybe Green Bay's played tougher opponents. I don't care. The Steelers are definitely in the harder division. And I do think this is going to be one of those games for the Steelers where everybody kind of exhales. Steelers fans everywhere, are like, oh my God, okay, I do think Kenny Pickett's gonna have some success. But Green Bay, man, they played a lot of young talent last week, and it went really well. And Green Bay should feel good about how they're doing on the defensive side of the ball. The only bummer about it is that they don't have Aaron Rodgers, you know what I mean, to capitalize on this defense.
Yeah.
But I do think
that'd be a much better decision on my end.
Yeah, I do think when you take all of the data that you and I have both said, don't touch it. You know,
do not look at it.
Don't even look at it. Don't think about. You know what? Basically, what I'm really trying to say is,
God gave us a great big apple.
I know you can't hear it.
He said, don't touch it.
It's playing.
He didn't say
Can you hear
touch it once in a while. He didn't say take a nibble when you're hungry. He said don't touch it. Don't think about touching it. Don't sing about touching it. Don't think about singing about touching it.
Just leave it alone.
Don't sing about thinking about touching it.
Just leave it alone. I'm so happy to know that you could hear that too.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, do you got anything else on this game before we move on?
No, I just think the terrible towels are going to be out, and that might be a little too much for the Packers.
Don't talk about those towels.
Those little towels?
Don't. Oh my God, I'm clipping this.
I'm canceled.
Oh my God. Oh, the last thing though, we have to talk about it. This is our job. George Pickens. All right, George Pickens and the scrubbing everything.
Yes.
I mentioned this during the football game if you guys missed it. Mike Tomlin was asked about all this George Pickens. If you don't know what's going on, he basically scrubbed all of the Steelers platform off his social media. And he's really pissed off that he's being trolled because somehow he didn't get 2 feet down when he had like 10 feet. And
very Kyler-esque.
Yeah, and it was also just a very like, oh, another Steelers head case at wide receiver. And like I don't say that insensitively, but at the same time, it's like, come on, man, like what, you know what I mean? I didn't even know I didn't even know he was like that. You know what I mean? And then I saw all this and I had no idea that he was like this. You know what I mean? So I don't know if maybe he's just going through a hard time, but they asked Mike Tomlin about it. And he said, it's a pebble in my shoe, which is a Muhammad Ali quote for those that don't know. And Muhammad Ali said something along the lines of, it's not climbing the mountain that wears you down. It's the pebble in your shoe.
Yep.
And Mike Tomlin being open and honest about this, saying, you're a pebble in my fucking shoe. And it's wearing us down as a team. So that is something to keep an eye on moving forward, how they're going to utilize him, if he's going to suit up for the game. I mean, there's a lot of unknown surrounding George Pickens, but ultimately they have plenty of weapons at their disposal where I don't think it ultimately matters. Do you got anything on that?
Dude, it's tough to really say anything because like, God, he has somewhat of a point. Now, look, it kind of boiled over with him not dragging his foot there. And a lot of the NFL community is like, dude, you had that touchdown. Drag your fucking foot. You're a wide receiver in the NFL. You know what to do. You got to get 2 feet in, right?
Right.
That frustration boiled over, but it's because of how the offense has been under Matt Canada. Under Matt Canada, that offense, it almost was like George Pickens would have never had the opportunity to have failed to have dragged his second foot under that Matt Canada offense. So this frustration is boiling over into a little mistake that George Pickens made. Now, look, again, as a wide receiver in the NFL, you got to drag that foot. But when you're that frustrated, when you're George Pickens as someone who was like supposed to be a huge, huge part of this offense, and it's been the way it's been, you're just kind of like, you're going to come at me like that? Like, yes, there's been fire Matt Canada chance, but like, I know you're frustrated. How do you think I feel when I made that mistake? So
yeah,
it is the pebble in the shoe for Mike Tomlin, although I think maybe those comments may have made it probably a little bit worse. But I think George Pickens and this, it might take another week. It might take him scoring a touchdown this week to really smooth all that over. And I think that's kind of what needs to happen. He needs to have either a big game or have like a fantastic catch in a winning effort at the end.
All right. And on Wednesday, so yesterday, they did ask Pickens about it in the press and after practice, and he said, just clearing out my page, scrubbing it, not too crazy. It's got nothing to do with the Steelers at all. Yeah, like, okay. And I just woke up and I was born yesterday. Like, are you kidding me? At least fucking own it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
be like, hey, it was an emotional knee-jerk reaction. I need to really grow up. You know what I mean? Like, that would
something
be something
like that.
That would be very admirable, honestly, and we could all just move on. But our next game is really cool because there's a young man that wasn't even taken in the first round, ended up getting taken by the Titans in the second round. He goes out, throws for 4 touchdown passes in his NFL debut, follows that up by playing a really damn good game against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. And unfortunately they fell short, but he did do enough where they named him the starting quarterback for the remainder of the season. I'm talking about Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans going to Tampa Bay to take on the Bucs. The Bucks are being 1 point favorites at this point. Total 38 points. So they see this one being fairly low, probably both teams under 20 points. Rick, I'm really curious to know where you're going with this game, because this game is like on one end you could make a case that the Titans are trending up, right?
Mm-hmm,
and then on the other side, you could make an argument that the Bucks are still higher than where Tennessee's trending. But there's a little bit of unknowns when the quarterback has only had 2 games for one of the teams, and we don't, how much are you really going to trust Baker? I mean, you can trust him, but how much? I mean, this game to me is a runner up for don't touch it. Curious to know what you think about it.
Yeah, man, this is a tale of bottom third teams and bottom third defenses going up against each other and going up against quarterbacks. Will Levis, who threw for 4 touchdowns in his debut, and Baker Mayfield, who went for 37 points last week against the Texans defense. Like, both of these quarterbacks can score points. Both of these offenses can score points. The defenses are just going to be terrible. And it seems to me like it might be another shootout depending on how Will Levis does. I love Will Levis in this game just because, I mean, he's defying all odds. He's a 2nd-round quarterback, and he's had a win, a tough loss against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, like you said. And he's got not a favorable matchup against the Bucks, but he's at home. So, or not at home. I'm sorry. He is in Tampa Bay against the Bucks. I do think this is going to be a shootout just because of how bad the defenses are. What they really need to focus on is making sure that Will Levis is protected throughout. And it seems like that offensive line for the Titans hasn't done a terrible job at doing that. It just might be the secondary for the Bucks that'll be the difference here. I'm still taking the Titans as the away team to win this game. This might be another situation against the Texans for the Bucks where they leave too much time on the clock, and Will Levis is able to orchestrate a 4th quarter game-winning touchdown drive.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bucks in this situation just because if it came down to just coaching, like, I'll take Mike Vrabel in a toss-up game every single time. And I do think, you know what I mean, the Buccaneers' ineffective running game is going to be a problem. But Rachaad White's been looking really good, as in the passing.
Yeah, for sure,
as well. So, and you know that because you got him on your fantasy team.
Hell yeah, baby.
But when you look at rushing defense, which is going to be really important, Tampa Bay is ranked 9th. They're top 10. They're giving up less than 100 yards per game, and you know what I mean. That's going to become a factor now. Had this game been like a team, like the Jets or Las Vegas, giving up 137 yards per game, I'd be like, maybe Derrick Henry just eats, you know what I mean, and gets the job done.
Yeah.
But Tampa does have a good run defense, and we do not all the way know like who Will Levis is yet. Yes, it looks great and it's promising. I think they got their guy. I do believe that. Mm-hmm. But Mike Evans has been playing, you know what I mean, pretty good this season. He's going to have another 1,000-yard season, and Baker's going to look his way early and often. I think he's going to get a touchdown in this game. I think the home crowd's going to get into it. I think it's going to be, a disappointing 3-point loss for Tennessee. But I do think that Will Levis will do enough to prove, that the upper office for Tennessee is making the right decision by rolling with him for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, let's hope Baker Mayfield too has fixed his issues with overthrowing receivers too. I mean, he looked good last week against the Texans. Like I said, getting that many points against the Texans defense. But he's always it always seems to be a bit of an inconsistency with Baker, like overthrowing Palmer, overthrowing Evans. And you said it, right? Like, he's probably going to look Evans' way very early and very often. But there's also been games where he gets 1-2 receptions and you're like, why the fuck did I start Evans on my fantasy squad? So
right.
let's hope it's the latter, or let's hope it's the former, not the latter.
All right. Our next game is long overdue for a guy that's 5'9" and loves Call of Duty. We got the Atlanta Falcons going into Phoenix, Arizona to take on the Kyler Murray led Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray's coming back. It's not really, the quarterback position is kind of weird because there's no pitch count as a quarterback. You either play or you don't. But I think it's practical to assume that Kyler Murray maybe not as effective as a runner as we're, used to seeing him as he gets back. And also I haven't played football in, 12 months jitters. I don't really know or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's just been a minute for him to step on the football to play a real meaningful game. And I don't know what's realistic to expect out of him, because remember, Kyler Murray was drafted after Arizona had drafted Josh Rosen with like the number 6, number 5 pick way up there.
First
then
rounder.
The next year they draft Kyler Murray, right? I mean, that would be like if the Bears drafted Caleb Williams, with their first pick. So they made that move, and it was crazy at the time, but then right away Kyler Murray looked the part. And then in his second year, I think they started 7-0, and it was like, nobody even talked about whether it was a good decision or not. But then they started losing, and then they put a bad season together last year. And now here we are with Kyler Murray, where people are saying that the contract might be the worst ever, but there was a reason they gave it to him. He had done enough, you know what I mean, for them to give him a vote of confidence. So Kyler Murray kind of is like the tale of two halves right now. It's like, what Kyler Murray are we going to get? What does Kyler Murray look like with this new head coach? It's a ton of unknowns. I'm really excited about it because, like, Kyler Murray is the leader. He's supposed to be the leader. And you know what? He's getting to an age now where I think that stuff comes more natural than when you're an 18-year-old kid making, you know what I mean, $20 million a year. Yeah. So I do think that I'm excited, but I don't really know. I just don't know what's fair to expect. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see if you kind of agree with what I'm saying, or if you feel one way strongly.
God, dude, this game is going to be such a fucking mess. And Ricardo Lopez just said Call of Duty Modern Warfare just came out. So
that's
better watch out. Hey,
Atlanta. Taking Atlanta. Is that true?
Cardinals fans are like, oh, some bitch. I love that this game is what, the Falcons as the underdog +1, because like you said, Vegas has no idea what's going to happen. This game is going to be an absolute mess. You've got Heineke starting for the Falcons, who really does seem to be a slight upgrade over Ritter, but they just lost against Joshua Dobbs last week, a guy who had been traded to that team 4 days prior to starting that game, or coming in for an injured Jaren Hall in that game, and they lost that. How do you lose that game after you cause a safety and you cause 2 fumbles? How do you lose that game?
Wait a minute.
It seems to be
Minnesota was playing Arizona.
No, the Falcons.
Oh, they were playing the Falcons. Okay,
the Falcons.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, like, I'm just asking, like, how do you lose that game, right? Like, that's insane. And it seems to be, like, offensive play calling, decision-making by Arthur Smith. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in that organization or with that team in general. They were vying for a spot in that NFC South because it looked like the Saints were just going to give it away. Now I'm definitely all in on the Saints winning that division. But I just... Again, with the Cardinals, yes, they have an upgrade over Clayton Tune from last week in Kyler Murray, but he's going to be way too rusty in this game. This is going to be a very sloppy game, and this might be a field goal dream. I don't know, a kicker's dream, because there's probably going to be a lot of field goals in this game. There's probably going to be a lot of punts in this game. This game's going to look like a Big
Dog
Ten.
Shit.
Big Ten. This game is going to be absolute dog shit. It's going to look like a Big Ten game on Saturday at 11 a.m. where you have 46 punts, 12 total points scored. and no touchdowns. That's what it's going to look like to me. I'm still picking the Falcons to win this, just because, again, Kyler Murray being rusty, absolutely an upgrade. And, he's going to take his team and do a lot better than Clayton Tune and a lot better than Joshua Dobbs was. But I'm somehow going with the more talent on the other side. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, even though he doesn't seem to be very effective these last couple of weeks. I just got to take the talent on the other side, taking Falcons.
Yeah. And man, I don't know.
It's so weird.
Yeah. Like I want to take the Falcons. I really do. And even, just a little bit of stats. So Atlanta scoring 18.4 points per game, Arizona 16.8, 220 yards passing for Atlanta, 162 for Arizona, 124 rush yards per game, 127 for Arizona. Let's take a second and acknowledge that Arizona is running the football better than Arthur Smith's Falcons, which that's his identity.
Insane.
In opponent points per game, though, Arizona's defense, man, 26.7 points per game they're giving up. Atlanta's giving up 21.3. So Atlanta gets the nod on defense when it comes to pass yards, rushing yards, and points. So Atlanta is the better defense. But the thing is we're really going to judge Arizona's offensive statistics without Kyler Murray. And this is a home game for Arizona. Now, had this game been in Atlanta, I'm inclined to go with Atlanta. But this game being at home, I think it's going to be one of those just emotional games. And sometimes we've seen that hurt teams. We really have. We've seen it, hinder them. I'm just going to, I'm going to agree with you on this one. So if we're wrong together, but I wouldn't be surprised, I guess, if the news says some kind of like headline like Atlanta spoils Kyler Murray's
homecoming or something
like that. But yeah, I don't think, I'm curious if you guys are watching this right now, put it in the comments who you have playing this game. These are the kind of games where we need you guys in the comments to help us out a little bit.
100%.
These are some tough games that we're trying to navigate through, but yeah, man, I don't feel good about this game. I wouldn't even touch this game, but if you're forcing my hand, I'm just going to take Arizona at home. I thought I was going to go with Atlanta, but I'm trying to, and something's stopping me. So let me just go all in. Kyler Murray, whatever.
Gets that dub coming back. All right. I like it. It's a tough one because even Vegas is like +1. Question mark? Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. You got anything else on that game?
Nope. Got nothing. I just hope Arthur Smith doesn't fuck it up again.
Yeah. And honestly, like I do have one last thing. When you're looking at Atlanta, they have all these weapons, right? And you mentioned some of the names: Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. Like they have a really good team as far as talent, but Desmond Ridder, not great. And then you look at Taylor Heineke, and it's still like, what does Atlanta really want to do? Do they want to compete this year? Because they don't have a quarterback that's going to take them to a Super Bowl. We all know that. Yeah. So what are they really doing besides taking themselves out of contention? You know what I mean? Of getting their quarterback. Because this is a team where if you draft, Caleb Williams, all of a sudden Atlanta's the favorite to win their division. Just like that. Yeah. So this is a really kind of, because we are at week 10 now. So we are at that point in the season where, playoff hopes are gone, or maybe Super Bowl aspirations are gone. And it'll be interesting to see how Atlanta kind of navigates what they're trying to accomplish in the long term, while trying to also win football games. It's very confusing.
Yeah. I thought the Bears were confusing. The Cardinals are very confusing.
The Atlanta's the most confusing.
It really is. They are too. Yeah.
Because they need a quarterback, but it's like they're not making a move. Like they're not calling. Why aren't they trying to make moves? Like they really are a quarterback away. You know what I mean? From competing. Yeah. And they're going to roll with Heineke, and I hope Heineke crushes it. I really do. Our next game is going to be fucking awesome. This is the Detroit Lions going into the City of Angels to take on Justin Herbert and the Chargers. The spread's got the Chargers as 2.5-point underdogs at home. Rightfully so, man. The Lions are an absolute dog
shit.
Just dog.
Oh,
just
dog. Fine, dog.
Just dog.
The
Lions
can't do that to me.
the Lions are coming off their bye. They've been rock solid this whole year. That said, they're 1-2 versus teams with winning records.
Yeah.
They beat the Kansas City Chiefs only by 1 point, and that was without Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. So the Lions really haven't proven that they can beat great teams this season. The latest one being getting smoked by the Ravens. But I'm going to go with Detroit. I think they're the better team. I think they're the most complete team in almost the NFC altogether. And Detroit did get a win going into their bye. I think that this game is going to be a good game. Not predicting a blowout, not predicting any nonsense. But I'm going to take Detroit to win this game, and I'm going to be totally okay with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna 100% agree with you. I'm taking Detroit, and I'm picking a lot of away teams in this like second half of the slate. But Detroit, it's just they have the much better, and I keep saying this episode, they just got more talent on their side of the ball. Now look, the Chargers have talent on their side of the ball. Absolutely. Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Herbert, you got Mac, you got Bosa on the defensive side. Like, you've got some names. It's just like a kid in a candy store. You don't know what the fuck to do with yourself. They don't know what to do with all this talent on their team. It's like they're trying to make things work. Mike Williams was out in week 3, I think season-ending surgery or whatever that was, and it's like the whole offense fell apart for Herbert. And the defense is like many names and as much talent and as many sacks as they're getting and as much as they're making lesser teams, the Bears, look bad when they go up against good teams. It's just like, again, it's like, what should we do? What are we doing with it? The scheme, everything on the Lions side is so much better. They've got blown out by the Ravens, another AFC team, right? And they beat the Chiefs by 1 point. Again, you said they were 1-2. Chiefs were without Travis Kelce. They were without Chris Jones, some star players on that side. It's just, I think the overall structure in Detroit right now with Jared Goff and how much success he's had there with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, how well he's done in the absence of David Montgomery, this offensive line for the Lions. I think that overall structure coupled with that talent is going to be so much better, dude. Dan Campbell's going to cry because of how good this team, I think, is going to beat the Chargers. The Chargers, I love Herbert, but it's just their coach and their structure and how they do offensively, even though Kellen Moore is a damn good offensive mind. I just don't think they have enough for this Lions team. I think the Lions beat them. I'm going to go ahead and say by 10.
Damn, that is crazy to hear, because that's definitely not the way the predictions are going right now. Only 2.5 points, Detroit favored by. But, few teams have as good of a quarterback as Justin Herbert, although that is becoming more controversial as they continue to, not really just become an elite team. And also, there's not many teams with pass rushers like the Chargers at the disposal. I mean, there's just so much talent on this team, the difference makers that the Chargers have in Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. Mike Williams got hurt, but still there's some other guys that stepped up.
For who?
Johnson. He was drafted. Quentin Johnson. Yes. So they have some people that are, they're just so talented. The fact that the Chargers are as talented as they are with the quarterback that they have, they're never going to be predicted to be blown out. That's just the reality of it, right? And that's why I really like your prediction, because it's different than what we're seeing everywhere else. And it is bold too,
Nice,
considering that the
nice.
Lions haven't been able to beat anybody really good, really bad.
Yeah.
The
I think this
offensive
might be
line-
it.
The offensive line is going to be whole for the first time since week 1.
Wow.
And I really think the humble pie that Baltimore served, the Lions is going to be enough to satisfy throughout the winter. I don't think that the Lions are going to forget about that. You know what I mean? I really think that's going to, later in the season, they're going to look back and say the best thing that happened to us this year was getting smoked by the Ravens. And
100%.
I'm with you. I'm gonna take the Lions to win, and it's gonna. I don't know if it's 10, but I'm gonna definitely take them to win by more than 2.5.
For sure.
No problem about that. And when it comes to passing yards, rushing yards, Detroit's leading. Detroit's averaging 25 points per game. Chargers 25.1.
Oh,
but
wow.
Detroit better defensively in points allowed. Detroit better when it comes to pass yards allowed. The Chargers are allowing 286 passing yards per game, dude. 286, almost 300 passing yards per game. So expect, guys, if you got, Amon-Ra St. Brown, if you got,
Laporta,
Reynolds,
Jahmyr Gibbs even.
And now we're actually getting Montgomery back. So after Jahmyr Gibbs' big performance, now it'll be interesting to see how Detroit kind of manages the 2-star running backs that they have.
Yep.
But either way, I just think that the Lions are going to come and they're gonna be ready, and it's going to be a lot like what you think it's going to be. I think
Lions are going to come. You heard it here first from Kyle.
All right, we got a viewer named Bill. Bill, you might need to plug your ears for this. New York Giants going in to not Dallas, Arlington, to play the Dallas Cowboys. Right? Don't you hate it when that happens?
I know.
Just like the New York Giants aren't in New York. Just like the Miami Dolphins aren't in Miami. But the Denver Broncos and Chicago Bears are in Denver and Chicago. Anyway, so the Cowboys, man, they're coming off the best loss that you can have. There's such thing in the NFL as good losses. It's true. And they're coming off a good loss against the Eagles, and there'll be a rematch right around the corner. And I do think the Cowboys, as long as they get better, is what we talked about last week, as long as they get better each and every week, they're going to be where they want to be by the end of the year. And I think that includes just rolling straight through the Giants. I think they win this game by 17 points minimum.
Oh, yeah. And do you remember what happened week 1 against the Giants, Kyle?
40-0?
40-0. Now they, yep, 40-0. And I hope Bill did plug his ears and he said, I know what's coming.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wish it wasn't this way.
Bill, me too. But look, Daniel Jones was their quarterback week 1 in that 40-0 loss. Their pass rush was Micah Parsons. Week 1, we were like, this defense, this Cowboys team is going to be fucking ridiculous. They're actually going to compete for the NFC Beast title. And for the most part, they are 5-3, right? Let's look at their losses. The Eagles last week, the 49ers before that, and then a really weird one against the Cardinals and Joshua Dobbs, okay? 2 losses that, like you said, last week was a really good loss. And what happened after that loss against the 49ers, they won 3 in a row, man. This team is competing against the Eagles. They're competing against the probably the best team in the NFC. Against the Giants, who are probably one of the worst teams in the NFC, one of the worst teams in the league. Again, sorry, Bill, but don't worry. I'm a Bears fan.
Broncos.
It's gonna be almost like they're gonna be salivating at the mouth coming into this after their loss last week. They're just like, thank God we have this game against the Giants. And not only the Giants, Tommy DeVito at quarterback against the Giants. They're gonna struggle probably against Saquon Barkley, but the passing game is going to be 0 factor. And it's unfortunate because Dable's not going anywhere. Like Bill said, like you and Bill have said, they're going to give him his third year. They're going to do all this. You know, we haven't really seen him with Daniel Jones after the $40 million contract, right? So they're going to wait for Daniel Jones to get healthy. They're going to go into next year and probably try to do the same. Dable's going to try to do whatever it is he's doing. But I don't know, man. I cannot see the Giants coming close to making this a game against the Cowboys. We talk about division rivals playing really close. I can definitely see that with the Eagles and the Commanders. I cannot see that against this Giants team. They're probably going to get sacked another 5 times.
Yeah, I think that this is just going to be a rough outing. Now, I don't think it's going to be 40-0. I think it's hard to do that. You know what I mean? Twice.
Yeah.
But if anyone can, no, I'm kidding.
No, don't.
No, I'm just joking. But in all seriousness, start Tony Pollard if he's on your fantasy football team, because New York's allowing the 3rd most rushing yards to running backs in the NFL. It's definitely going to be a great game for Tony Pollard. I don't even know if there's going to ultimately, like, I don't think Dallas is going to have to do that much to beat the Giants. So I don't know if it's fair to expect, you know what I mean, the game to be, you know, this crazy margin. And Tommy DeVito, I mean, what kind of trick could he have up his sleeve? You know what I mean? That's going to make the difference in this game. I just don't know really how you find a realistic angle to take here, but to take the Giants, I just don't see it.
I'll put it this way. Cooper Rush will be in by the start of the 4th quarter.
No.
Yeah.
You think?
Yep. Unfortunately, yeah, because they don't want Dak Prescott to get sacked. Thibodeau on that side of the Giants ball, still a very good defensive player for the Giants, but they're going to want Cooper Rush to take those sacks if he can get through.
All right. You heard it here first. And Cowboys 16-point favorites. And any time in the NFL you see a team favorited by that large of a number, take the Giants plus 16, because the NFL does, you know, it's the NFL at the end of the day. You can't just assume you're going to win by 16 points. But they might. So
They might.
Our next game is the Washington Commanders going to where Rick lives, going to Seattle to take on the Hawks. They're going into the Hawks' nest to take on the 12th man and Geno Smith and Pete Carroll and who's there? And Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
And all those weapons that they've added with the trade deadline and what's the pass rusher's name? Robinson from New York?
Something like that, yeah.
Something. It was a very common last name. Williams, I think it was. Williams. Yeah. But
Bill knows.
Seattle, man, they're a contender when Geno's playing at a high level. Unfortunately, he's on a 4-game run where he's thrown 6 interceptions and he's taken 11 sacks. So normally this would be a huge problem, but the Commanders have gotten rid of their 2 pass rushers. I'm taking the Seahawks to win at home.
Yep, I'm also going to take them to win at home. They just came off an embarrassing loss against the Ravens, and you know the Ravens did that for the 2nd time this season. Geno Smith played like shit. DK Metcalf has not been a factor this season at all. And you know you've seen the frustration from DK. Jackson Smith and Jigba has not been the rookie sort of impact that we thought he would be. Tyler Lockett is still Tyler Lockett, super reliable in the pass game. I just think that the most important part right now for the Seahawks is their defense. More specifically, their secondary, right? You got Witherspoon there. I think Jamal Davis, right, is still their safety there. I forget, but their secondary is so damn good. They create the most turnovers. Their sack numbers are up, but that's only because they got like 11 against the Giants. Sorry, Bill. And they're still a very good defense. And like you said, when Geno Smith is playing like he played last year, which his numbers have dipped this year, but if he can play like he played last year in just this game, they're gonna come away with a win. The Washington Commanders have let up probably the most sacks in the history of the NFL through 10 weeks, something like that, because Sam Howell is on a pace to throw the most touchdowns and get sacked the most times by any quarterback in NFL history. So that says something about their offensive line. I've talked about their offensive line. They need to invest in their offensive line, the Commanders, because Sam Howell is going to be a very good quarterback. He's throwing for 300 plus almost every week. It's just he's good, man. He's going to be a quarterback for the Commanders for the long run. And they have a lot of guys in their team. They have Jahan Dotson. They've got Scary Terry. They've got Brian Robinson. They've got some good talent on that team. It's just that Washington's defense has just given up Chase Young, Montez Sweat. We saw their young guys step up last week. It's just a matter of, who's next up, and can they do that for 2 straight weeks? Is that going to continue? I don't know. I don't see it happening against the Seahawks, especially at home in Seattle. I'm also taking the Seahawks.
Yeah, can't really argue with any of that. And Sam Howell is on pace to throw the most passes and take the most sacks in a single season in NFL history.
Mm-hmm. He's throwing like 50 plus times a game.
Yeah, and he shouldn't be treated as a reliable quarterback yet. With the way things are going, but he's a big reason why Washington has stayed competitive in football games. Seattle doesn't have the most imposing pass rush, but it is talented in the secondary. So that creates, we talked about it, how defenses play into each other. So there may be some coverage sacks and stuff like that, but this should be a game where Seattle can right the ship and get back, into the positive, good vibes. And they're going to want this too, because the 49ers are coming off 3-game losing streak, and they're playing Jacksonville. So that means if Jacksonville handles business and Seattle wins, now they have a 2-game lead in their division, which is something that I don't think anybody could have predicted just 4 weeks ago when the 49ers were undefeated. And we were talking about them going undefeated, and I think Seattle is not going to waste an opportunity like that. So I think Seattle gets this dub, and I think Washington maybe stays around for a little bit, but ultimately I think in the middle of the third quarter, Seattle pulls away from this game.
All right.
You got anything else on that game?
Geno Smith throws for 2 touchdowns.
Okay, that I don't know if that's super bold, but
I think so. With his recent performance, I think so.
Oh, okay. Is that like a
Make
mic
it
drop
4.
moment?
Make it 4, bitch. No, I'm just kidding.
Kenneth Walker gets a rushing touchdown.
Kenneth Walker gets 10 rush yards. Oh, what a madman!
DK Metcalf gets 3 catches. What?
With the way he's been doing this season, that's actually a bold.
Well, here is sorry, you just need a little water.
Need a little water.
First name Reaper, last name Grim. Space jumping, crocodile wrestling, volcano illusion.
All right,
Philip
Seymour Hoffman.
All right, so let's go. Let's get right into it. Sunday Night Football. The Jets coming off a really ugly loss. Aaron Rodgers on Tuesday said that they kept asking him. They said, when you see how good your defense is and you see the struggles on offense, does it make you just like want to get out there? And he's like, well, there's a lot of people that, think that they could do better watching on TV. But when the bullets are flying and you're in the action, it's a little different. And like, we'll just call it what it is. Zach Wilson didn't look good at all. He didn't have a good game. He didn't have a moment at the end of the game like he did with the Giants, at least, where it was like, oh, he rose to the occasion. This is now the Jets with that defense, by the way. They are all dogs. And they're going into Las Vegas to win. They need to win so that Rodgers can come back. Rodgers is rehab. It's almost like all of the work that Rodgers is doing to be throwing football 55 yards in pregame. Did you see that?
Yeah.
All the work that he's doing is for nothing if the Jets don't win games like this.
Mhm.
These are the games that the Jets absolutely under no circumstances can afford to lose if they want to see Rodgers come back. If they want to see 12 lead this team, they got to win these games. And I think that emphasis is there. But on the other side, the Raiders with Antonio Pierce, they look like a whole new team with a whole new energy, a brand new identity. They're having fun. They're smoking cigars. And I think they want to prove that last week wasn't a fluke. This game is very difficult for me personally.
This game, to me, is absolute dog shit because
Really?
I don't know who's gonna win this, man. You have your don't touch it. This is my absolute dog shit game right here. The Raiders look like a fun team under Antonio Pierce. You get rid of fucking Josh McDaniels and you get rid of all the problems, it seems like. The only thing is they have Aiden O'Connell there, quarterback, and they're still not that good at offense. Yes, they beat the Giants. Cool. You beat the Giants. Congratulations. Do you want a cookie? The Giants are fucking beatable every week. Sorry, Bill, but I'm a Bears fan. You're welcome for the number 3 pick so far. It's not. Look, that was exactly when they needed to fire Josh McDaniels, was before that Giants game. Because you make Antonio Pierce as an interim head coach look good. You make the team seem fun and like, oh yeah, see, you get the fan base excited. Like that was the perfect week. And I think Mark Davis planned that shit out. What are we talking about? NFL rigged? That was owner rigged right there. And then you've got the Jets on the other side. Zach Wilson looks like Bryce Young does this year. Not impressive. Looks like he doesn't belong on a football field as a starter, as a quarterback, dude. He sucks. He sucks, man. I don't know why Salah, Coach Xerxes, hasn't called or brought in anyone else other than Zach Wilson. Look,
they tried to.
Huh?
They tried to. And
I'm saying after Rodgers. I'm saying after Rodgers got injured. Remember
they did. They tried. They I don't remember who, but I remember they made like 4 phone calls to guys and none of them ended up taking the thing. And then the next day they were like, no, Zach's our guy. And they tried to act like they didn't make those phone calls. And it was like, okay, you believe in him because no one answered the phone is what really happened.
Regardless, dude, like someone's got to take some money. Someone's got to be the money to be like, you know what? Like I get to throw to Garrett Wilson. I have Dalvin Cook as my running back. Okay, I think I could do this for 8 weeks, 10 weeks until Aaron Rodgers gets back and maybe win a few games, at least go 500 from there. It's just like the excuse is Zach is our guy because he knows the system better. That excuse is fucking over with, man. If those phone calls didn't work, do something else. Get your fucking Tyson Bagent type of quarterback. Somebody else. He might not look. He probably will be just as good as Zach Wilson. This experiment is over, man. Zach Wilson is not an NFL quarterback. I don't know. Maybe his confidence was shot after his rookie year, and he's he's in New York, and that media is just rough. But that defense is just so damn good. I don't even know what to do anymore. The defense is so good, but they can still give up points. There's still, not a lot of points, but they're still going to give up points. It's just like whose offense will be that much better because we know the defense on the New York Jets is great. But I still think the defense on the Raiders can be very effective against a weak ass offense. So it really is who can score the most points. And if you win the turnover battle, can you turn those turnovers into points or into pick sixes, into fumble sixes, where you get a turnover close enough where it's a field goal? That might be this game right here. And this is going to be probably not a very, very exciting pick, but I'm taking the Raiders at home, man. I don't think the Jets are going to do it, even with their astounding defense that is going to absolute waste.
No, I totally get it, all of it. The one thing with the Raiders that'll be important is to get one of their best players involved, not their best players, one of the best players in the NFL, Devontae Adams.
Yes.
I'm holding him, and he's my fantasy wide receiver 1, right? I haven't benched this week.
That's
insane. I would rather go with T. Higgins after his good week. I would rather go with Mike Evans or Chris Olave. Look at this. In the last week, he had 1 catch. 2 weeks ago against Detroit, he had 1 catch. Against the Giants, he had 4 catches for 34 yards.
Oh my God.
Against New England, 2 catches.
How
exactly? And I really think that that's kind of the next step for Antonio Pierce, is being like, let's find ways to make sure that he's playing a role in the game. He's too good to just be a decoy out on the side. So I do think if you're going with the Raiders here, then the drought is over. I say Devontae Adams gets a touchdown, and he also gets around 7 catches for 120 yards.
Hey, there we go. That's not that bold. No, I'm just kidding.
It's pretty bold against the number 1 passing defense in the NFL.
It is.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to do, but man, the Raiders got good energy right now, and they just got to kind of keep grinding it out and keep tapping into that.
And I think that's why I'm going with them too. I just like the energy. It's just, fuck this game, dog shit game.
All right, Rick.
We all know what's next.
I'm gonna need like 20 seconds before we get to this one.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, this next one, Kyle, I think we all know, if you've seen his background, I think you guys know which game is coming up next. It's going to be our Monday night football game. It's going to be, I think maybe this is the first week where both the Broncos and the Bears are on prime time television. The Bears just got a dub on Thursday Night Football, and now it's the Broncos' turn. It's the Broncos at Buffalo Bills. It's the Broncos going to Buffalo the middle of November to take on the Bills. I will go first because I know Kyle. This is Kyle's team. Kyle's gonna go absolute in the weeds with this. I know it. There's Kyle right there with his Broncos stuff on.
I'm ready. Ready.
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Well, hold on. We got to keep, the vibes all got to stay the same. I don't want you to jinx this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about Monday Night Football, the Denver Broncos, coming off a win against the Packers, a win against the Chiefs. Oh, that feels good to say.
Yeah.
And now going into Buffalo's coming off of a loss, Denver has totally turned the page completely. They held Patrick Mahomes to 1 touchdown pass in 2 times.
Oh, in 2 games?
In 2 games.
Oh, okay.
In the last 3 weeks. This defense, like, we've seen enough. This is not a fluke. This is not like, oh, they stumbled into a good game. This is 4 games now that they have shown that they have a really good defense going into Buffalo to take on the Bills. 3-5, 4-5, or 3-6 is way different. The Denver Broncos season is on the line on Monday night. And that is not an exaggeration to sell the game. That is a fact. This is one that Denver can't lose, and this is one that Buffalo absolutely can't lose.
Yeah.
Which is a tough place to be when you're playing any opponent. You never want to go into their house with them angry because they lost to the Bengals. But this is where the chips have fallen, and this is the way it's got to be. Rick, you know what I'm going to ask you.
What are you going to ask me, Kyle?
Who do you got?
Oh, God, this is such a tough one. Look, I love what the Broncos did against the Chiefs before their bye week. I love it because they went into it with high hopes, and they'd beaten the Packers the week before. They beat the Chiefs convincingly. They beat the Packers not so convincingly. And I really don't know who to pick because the Bills have just been another team where I'm just like, what is going on? What team do we have? What are we trying to score? Are we not trying to score? Is the defense trying to play tough? Are they not trying to play? Like, I just don't understand. Not gonna lie, I don't understand both of these teams. I really don't. How can the Broncos barely beat the Packers but blow out the Chiefs in 3 games that they've played, right? The last 3 games that they played, you've basically held Patrick Mahomes to what you say, 1 touchdown pass. And the Bills started off the season hot. Yeah, they had that loss, and we're like, okay, well, maybe that might be just one of those, like, maybe it's a loss, but we're not going to put too much into it. Looked good. Josh Allen looked good, and now it's like 5-4. What? Where are we? Where is this? The AFC East? I thought we were in the AFC East. I thought we were in Buffalo. Dude, you're gonna hate me. You're gonna hate me, and no matter what, I'm still gonna root for the Broncos on Monday night. But I'm taking the Bills at home, no matter how inconsistent they've been. I just have a tough time seeing the Broncos beating the Bills at home. But hey, I'm gonna be right there during that stream, rooting for Russell Wilson and Cortland Sutton and Surtain to get a pick, because we know that Josh Allen will throw picks, and I'm hoping Surtain will get it because I'll be wearing my jersey with you. I'm rooting for the Broncos. I think at home the Bills will win this game. And I don't even want to say a score because I don't know what the score will be. It could be 7, it could be 2, it could be 1, it could be 14. I don't know. It doesn't exist on the fucking like. You know what I mean? So I'm taking the Bills at home, but again, I'm rooting Broncos all day.
All right. I get it. I do. Let me tell you why Denver can win this game. Okay.
Let's go.
The Broncos can win this game because they have implemented something totally new. When you look at what Denver has done in the 3-game win streak that they've had in the last 4 weeks, they've ran the football effectively, very effectively. They have, Jaleel McLaughlin looks great. He's an absolute weapon. And they're running the football really well with Javonte Williams. Also, the offensive line has been holding up really well. Sean Payton, he came in and the first thing he did was fix the O-line. And it took some time. It's a new offensive line, but Quinn Marinez, our guard, is a lock to be a Pro Bowler. Mike McGlinchey's playing great. Ben Powers is playing great. They have, in their last 3 wins, Russ has thrown less than 200 yards passing in each of those games. Yeah, which tells you that Denver doesn't need to throw the football, for 300 yards to win their football games. I can't say the same for Buffalo. Buffalo does need to throw for 300 yards to win their football games because they don't run the football effectively. The way that the running game has really complemented not just Denver's passing game, but helped their defense has been an enormous thing. Also, CJ McMillan coming in. We finally got rid of Damari Mathis. Do you remember the guy in the beginning where I kept saying, how is he still in the NFL?
Oh, yeah.
3 games ago, Denver made a switch. And
finally,
look how much better the defense has looked in those 3 weeks. This is also a game that Denver knows that they have to win in order to try to make a playoff push. Yeah. So you're going to get 2 desperate teams. The question is, who do you trust more in this game? And I totally understand taking Josh Allen over Russell Wilson. And Buffalo is a really difficult place to play. And you add primetime on top of it. And one thing I'll say, I don't think this is going to be like a blowout. I don't think Buffalo is going to, be able to just mop the floor or anything like that. The most I could see Buffalo winning by is like 27-17, something like that.
Okay. I can see that.
I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. And remember, this is Von Miller playing the Denver Broncos. This is the guy that when he got traded to the Rams, he cried on a video and, with his Super Bowl trophy and said how miserable he was. And then when the Rams won the Super Bowl, he said, I kind of want that old thing back, 5'2", which is 4,280 feet above sea level. Like, he wanted to come back home. And then the Bills ended up getting him, right? So, like, and he still, when he talks about the Broncos, he still refers to Denver as we, us. And if I was a Bills fan, that would bother me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But as a Broncos fan, it's endearing to know that, the most beloved player in Denver Broncos history still believes that he's a Denver Bronco. Why am I bringing it up? Because Von Miller is going to want to have an absolute wrecking type of game to remind everybody that not only because when you bet on a player at Von Miller's age to leave, you're basically saying you're going to get hurt again. And guess what? Denver was right. And, Von Miller wants to prove like, no, I had enough gas in my tank where I could have still been a key player on this team. He's going to want to have his best game, maybe ever. You know what I mean? Against this Denver Broncos defense. So that's going to be a key to victory is Denver's ability to, because Buffalo, not just Von Miller and their pass rushes, their front four is really good at providing pressure. So Denver's offensive line is going to have their hands full, and they're going to need to run the football, which will slow down the pass rush. And then I do think you sprinkle in some Jerry Jeudy, some Cortland Sutton, and you mix that in with just good defense. We're going to need Surtain to come down with a couple interceptions. Yeah. But the more the season progresses, the more together the Denver Broncos are playing. I think that if they win this game, nobody is going to be saying that. I don't know. I think they go to the top 10 if they win this game. Just because when you beat the Chiefs in Buffalo, it means something. Those are, in the last 4 years, the AFC runs through Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. So you beat two of the three in 4 weeks. It means something. So I think Denver's aware of all that. I think we're in for an absolute amazing game. Every day I wake up and I go, only 2 more days until the Broncos, only 3 more days, only 4 more days. And it's a really, really special game for all Broncos country to see Von Miller. And that's going to be just fun to cover in general. But we are 3 days, 18 hours, and 33 minutes away from kickoff. And I am so excited for this game, Rick. I haven't been this excited for a game in a long time. And I'm being totally honest about that because we are at a point where we could actually turn our season around with a win. And I haven't felt like that in 6 years. You know what I mean?
That's insane, man. I wish I could feel the same about a Bears Thursday night football, Bears Monday night football, because that's just the fact that the prime time is added in Buffalo off of a Kansas City win. It is huge. And I still think of the Broncos as a lower mid-tier team just because their offense isn't amazing. But I don't know about top 10. I will say if they can beat the Bills, man, it's looking like, oh shit, there are some serious playoff thoughts going on in Denver now with this win. So again, I will be rooting for the Broncos with my Surtain jersey on 100%.
Von Miller did say he has no bad blood. When he was asked about playing the Broncos, he said, I left Denver on good terms. So they, obviously they've been asking him about it. He said, it'll be different for sure. It's not like a revenge game or anything like that. For me, I left on good terms, left and went and won a Super Bowl. I got a great relationship with everybody in that facility. Don't have any bad blood with a single person in there. Von Miller said when asked about it on Thursday, he said, I remember when these guys drafted me, that they were rookies coming in for a rookie minicamp and all those things. I really value my relationships with the players, especially Patrick Surtain. So just Von Miller, class act as always, you know what I mean? Just such a lovable guy. And honestly, I just can't wait until we, if I had it my way, if I had it my way, we would already have a statue outside Mile High.
Wow. Huge praise for Von Miller there. Broncos country.
Let's ride.
Let's ride. All right, let's go. So those were our predictions. Let us know in the comments what you think we're wrong in, what you think we're right in. And to be honest, we're always right, so don't look at past episodes. But let's move into now our Week 10 favorite matchup. Kyle, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You this time.
All right. The number one matchup I'm looking forward to in Week 10 is going to be a battle of quarterbacks. CJ Stroud versus Joe Burrow, the Bengals versus the Texans. Stroud, we talked about his record-breaking performance last week, 470 yards, 5 touchdowns, won the game in the last 40 seconds. Joe Burrow was finally playing like the Joe Burrow we know and love, who's been to multiple AFC championship games. He's been to the Super Bowl already, who is just an overall monster of a quarterback and just a great competitor. Him versus CJ Stroud is going to be a great matchup. Both of these guys have 7 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks thrown, and that's that CJ Stroud threw 5 just last week, right? So overall, really good quarterbacks here on both of these sides. I think I picked the Bengals at home, I believe. Yeah, I picked the Bengals at home, but hey, this could be a lot closer game than a lot of us are thinking here with both of these quarterbacks back there.
Yeah. For mine, I have Denver secondary against Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis.
Yes.
That is what I'm looking at because I already know that Buffalo doesn't have a strong running game. However, ever. This is going to be a game where with Josh Allen feeling like, okay, I have to kind of become Superman for my team, which we know that he's going to want to be. I think that there's going to be an emphasis that he's going to be trying to force the ball downfield. And that's why I'm looking for the passing defense for Denver to be able to slow it down and then maybe take advantage of the desperation that Josh Allen may be feeling. So Denver's
Surtain.
So yeah, specifically Patrick Surtain on Stephon Diggs. Let's go. Sign me up for that any day of the week. Are you kidding me? It's going to be so good. Such a good matchup. But yeah, I say Surtain shuts Diggs down to less than 50 yards receiving in the game.
All right, my next one is going to be Geno Smith after such a terrible loss against the Ravens. A game in which he was just bad in, just bad. Like nothing was going on for that offense for the Seahawks. He's going against. I want to see how he responds against the Commanders. The Commanders defense giving up over 260 yards passing in the last 3 games, 27th overall in 251 yards per game as a defense. And we talked about DK not really being a factor. Can they take advantage of this Commanders secondary passing defense and overall defense and really start to get into that? We're competing for the NFC West division title, not just a wild card anymore. We are trying to be the NFC West division winners this year, and we're going to do it against a very, very lackluster defense in the Commanders. Can Geno Smith do it? Can DK become a factor in this game? That's going to be very interesting to watch because if they can, watch out. Watch out in the West. Watch out in the West.
All right. I got the number 1 running back in the NFL. That's Christian McCaffrey. He's got 652 rushing yards on the season against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, which now is ranked 4th, allowing 3.6 yards per carry. Christian McCaffrey averaging 4.8 yards per carry. I do think with everything going on with San Francisco and Brock Purdy, I do think they're going to want to make life easy on themselves by running the football. And I think they're going to rely on Christian McCaffrey heavily. So the matchup I'm looking at is the Jacksonville Jaguars running defense against the best running back in the league.
That's going to be a good one. Yeah, I mean, we both had. Did we both have the Jags in that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so that's gonna. Oh, ooh, so many good games this week too, just
So
like
many.
last week, right?
So many.
So many. All right, Kyle. What do you got for us for the chives? Look at all the chives in the background. Everybody, give it up for Kyle for finding that chives picture. Give it up.
Isn't
Give
it
it
awesome? All right. So my chives today, you mentioned when we were talking about TJ Hawkinson.
Mhm.
I think you mentioned that you thought he was injured. So I did look up the injury report, and TJ Hawkinson has a rib injury, and he was limited as of Wednesday. He was a limited participant. So this is something that they're saying that, fantasy managers should keep an eye on, but there's no reason to believe that he's not going to be good to go for week 10. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. And I did have one more thing I wanted to give you guys, just as far as like a news roundup from today. James Conner was listed as was limited today on the report. Drake London groin was a full participant. Rashad Bateman for the Ravens was limited. Odell Beckham was full. He was listed for a knee injury, but he's good to go. Josh Allen's right shoulder was a full participant. And they do have 4 players that are banged up. Jordan Poyer, the safety, Micah Hyde, their safety, Christian Benford, Terrell Bernard, and Leonard Floyd sick.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll be better with the extra day of rest, playing on Monday.
Yep.
Jamar Chase was limited. T. Higgins, hamstring, did not participate, but he is not expected to play Sunday against the Texans, which most people aren't tracking right now. This is really not good for the Bengals. Deshaun Watson, a full participant. Amari Cooper was limited. Njoku was limited. And the last one I had was David Montgomery was a full participant.
Oh, wow. David Montgomery back.
Aaron Jones was limited as well for the Packers today. And Dameon Pierce, ankle injury, did not practice on Thursday. Nico Collins also missed today's practice. So there's a little bit of there's a little bit of injuries going around the league right now. Just wanted to try to keep everyone as up to date as possible on the chives.
Well, thank you, Kyle, because I'm sure a lot of people in fantasy football are going to find that extremely helpful. And I want to say thank you to Bill, to Liam, to Ricardo Lopez, and I believe he actually subbed. So, Ricardo, if you did, awesome. Thank you so much. Let us know in the chat. Thank you guys so much for being in the chat, watching this stream. We always appreciate all the conversations, all the comments, all the views, the likes, the shares, everything, the subs. We love all that stuff from you guys. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow me at @AndNowRick. Kyle, where can they follow you on Twitter?
You guys can follow me at FTBLONLYPODCAST, and I'd appreciate that. So thank you guys once again.
Jinja in the chat too. Thank you so much again to everyone who tuned in and left a little comment for us. We always appreciate it. As always, Kyle and I are always right with our predictions, so don't ever think otherwise, right, Kyle?
Exactly. Especially that Monday night prediction. Can't wait, man, to stream these games with you in just a couple days. Hope you have a good Thursday night or rest your night and Friday. And I can't wait, man. Can't wait for Sunday.
It's gonna be fun. And from us, couple of veterans, to everyone else, other veterans, happy Veterans Day to all you guys. Thank you. Kyle, see you on Sunday, brother.
All right, brother. See you.
See ya.